last week, this company named from American company that does stuff for the United States Air Force. They use prepared 2D and 86. They announced big thing that I saw simulators like this to Colombia. It's prepared 2D. When the Korean Air Force learned this, they were laughing because they almost buy a thing for them. Vertex, I think the name, Vertex. They almost buy, and they saw, this thing doesn't do absolutely nothing. This is a toy. I mean, yeah, you hop in, you put your Barrio, your first generation Barrio, and fly in a T6. Yeah, right. Have you tried to stall that plane? You won't do it. You don't have that kind of flight dynamics in property. What the Korean are doing, because it's something unheard of in Latin America, it's making everybody waiting for this project to be finished. So I'm not getting anything out of it because I thought in the future. Because the future, if I'm possible to do it, it's gonna be Chile. So Chile is gonna buy this aircraft, 100% sure. Chile is right now ready to buy the 16 for MCS because they have existing Vipers, and they have their older simulators bought to when they bought this aircraft. United States didn't give them a simulator. They bought 2 simulators from Israel. I've seen them. They're not working, and the software that they used to is really bad, really, really bad. Same thing happened to the Korean Air Force and the simulator that Embraer gave them for the Super Tucano. It doesn't work. It doesn't have not even 10% capabilities that MCS have. So that's how I saw it. This is a nice way to get into this and get this big market because the A319B Super Tucano is a really look for aircraft in the simulation way because Embraer is not giving what the actual users of this aircraft needs for simulation purposes. The Super Tucano we are developing right now, it's actually just a 2D model. It's going to be one of its kind, and nobody is actually creating one. And I'm going to have no ITAR problems because this is approved by the Korean Air Force through Embraer. There's no way I could get that kind of things if I want to sell that to the Korean Air Force, 1, and 2, they wouldn't have the money to buy it. So they would rather invest their money in buying licenses for MCS and everything they need. I give them this, and at the same time, they're looking forward for other stuff to be done in MCS, which cannot be free. So yeah, that will be different, but it's a way to get into them. So it's like, for instance, when these French Air Force start using the Mirage 2000 in DCS. Yes, I did contact you, and I think you gave them a special license to use DCS back then. I didn't charge them for use of my Mirage 2000. You know what? Go ahead. Because I was looking for what will happen ahead later on. Sure, they are interested right now. They have their own stuff going around. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But, well, I think it might work in the future. Maybe they know right now that Razbam exists and Razbam does this aircraft. So if they're really looking for someone to create something they need, they might come to me.
Okay, that's what I thought. So it answers my question. Okay, so thank you for being so candid. It was a business decision which you made on your own, which makes sense for Ecuador, and that's fine. And what you get in return, is the opportunity to build this this great model and with all the details and everything to do with the aircraft is now in your hands. This is great.
Besides, I don't have a license agreement with Eagle Dynamics for A319B because when I talked with Matt back then, he said, okay, let's wait until this thing is in such position that we can have a license agreement because the clock starts ticking and I don't know how long it's going to take me to create this thing. So the idea was actually at the end, sell it in DCS. Then I will get some kind of return for what was invested in. But there's no license agreement with D right now. So basically what it is right now, it's a 2D model in Studio Max. And it's quite good, but there's no code involved in anything because I don't have access to NCS SDK. So if you tell me that I need to buy licenses for SDK to get into this thing into NCS and deliver to the Korean Air Force, well, if that I have to do, I will do it. There's no problem for me doing that because my involvement in NCS is completely different from my involvement in DCS. They're 2 different kind of investors. Where I'm doing what the people do with me in DCS is totally different from what I'm doing in MCS. In MCS is whatever we do in MCS is have a different structure with the developers versus what we're doing in DCS. In DCS, I have this
Really?
kind of investors that are part of the project. They get their money worth of what they've done. They get while in the MCS they get paid. They get a payment
Okay.
for the development. Of course,
Okay.
it's
That's interesting. That's interesting news to me because that, I mean, Paolo, I think you would agree that's probably the correct way to go, because the problem where you would have shareholders is that they essentially, as authors, they get to potentially hold you as a ransom with their code, if for any reason they don't like the deal you're doing with the Chileans or the deal you did with the Ecuadorians. They can say, I don't agree, you need
a
to pay me.
different
And then
level
we've got it's a very different environment. Well, that's good to hear.
I'm going. Listen, before I jump into this, I have companies. I run a really good tuna company, so I know what it is when dealing with the foreigners and how it is dealing with this kind of stuff. I know the difference between dealing with the video game and dealing with this. So what is dealt in DCS have nothing to do with what is dealt in NCS. No, absolutely no regard in my company. So yes, that's why usually we develop first for DCS exactly like D15 Star Eagle, and whenever or whatever D15 Star Eagle gets a customer in MCS, it's a different deal for them with me. Okay, so yeah, sure, they will get a payment, only payment because this money they done, it's work they done, but then there are no shareholders in this thing. So completely different structure, completely different approach to it, and they agree to it, and that's how I'm managing this. Because there is absolutely no way that you can convince this guy to do something for free, like in Super Tucano, if you don't get something back. So I could do it because I'm a 3D modeler. And probably I'm even better than Tim. He did an amazing efficiency trial. I think I'm probably 2-3 times better than him. But the thing is that I cannot tell them do this for free and we'll see later. Okay, so it's a different structure, and I know that it's costly. I know I have to pay. You told me a long time ago I have to pay for the SDK for per seat for anything I do in MCS. Okay, I'm willing to pay that, but MCS is one thing, DCS is a completely different thing. So as you know, Nick, we have not been paid for what we have done for DCS. And it's causing a huge problem, a really huge problem, not with me and ETSA, because this is within Razbam simulations and ETSA. I have not gone any other way out of respect for you, because I have a kind of respect and really got you in high regard. But this is getting to me, it's completely converting to me in a big problem within my shareholders in DCS projects and me, because they need their money. Their money was done
I
in something.
understand. Let's talk about that, and specifically about the A29 project then. So and let's talk about the money involved and the FDKs and so on. Are you willing to sign up now for these SDKs? And are you willing to agree on commercial terms for selling? Because there's a two-way street here, right? There's the element for the investment that you make, and then the sales you make of A29 or anything in the area. And there's the MCS part and the commission if you bring a deal on the MCS part, or anything that we have to do, or if you were to sell F-16s for us and so on and so forth. So are you ready to enter into that discussion with how many seats you will be purchasing for the SDK and for the TDK?
I'm willing to do anything like that as long as we solve the DCS issue. the money that is owed to us for ETSA, for Eagle, F-15 Extra Eagle, and all the other quarters and we paying has nothing to do with whatever money I invest in MCS. Sure, let's finish that. Let's cover that, and I'm more than willing to sign you anything commercially for MCS. But the other part have to be solved. There is absolutely no relationship between one and the other. I have different.
Well, there is. Unfortunately, there is to me, because I need to be confident. I need to be confident that we will have that arrangement not only signed, but also financed. Because what I don't want to have is a situation where I have no leverage at all. And I have to be honest with you, this is only a case of having the necessary leverage over each other, if you wish. What you're asking is solve all of that, and then this is not the way I'd like to do it. The way I'd like to do it is for us to agree on how we work together, or we don't. You know, that's fine, and then we just.
Nick, I'm sorry, says first. There is money owed to us for an F-15 Extra Eagle that absolutely have nothing to do with the A29B Super Tucano. There's nothing to do with A29B Super Tucano. Super Tucano
But
is not.
it has to do with our general relationship and the fact that you are working on the A29. You have worked on it with an intent to sell to the Ecuadorian Air Force, something that we've obviously seen.
That's nothing to do with ETSA. Eagle Dynamics and whatever we sell in Eagle Dynamics is completely different to what we do with the MCS. There is absolutely no reason, no relation.
There is a relationship.
Have to do with the A29B Super Tucano.
There is a relationship, and it's called me.
I know.
I am the link here, and
Yes.
I'd like to know. It's called me. Now, if you don't want to take that into consideration, that's fine. I accept.
I know it's you, but there is money owed to us. I need you
Yeah,
to
and there's also an arrangement owed to us, and that arrangement is how are you developing your MCS future with that is an arrangement which is owed to. We don't have that arrangement, and you're in the middle of doing it, in the middle of creating that without our agreement. Nobody is allowed to do that without our agreement, that we have an agreed strategy, pricing, financial sharing, and so on. It doesn't work. It's like starting to working on a model and then saying, oh, by the way, here it is. And if you don't want to produce it, I'll sell it anyway on the back of DCS through my own channels. It's the same thing. And it's the same argument that I've been having with one or two other third parties, including the people in America, where I said, no, it doesn't work like that. If you want to have a relationship, sign and pay. Then we'll have the relate. It's not we'll just wait until you're ready, and once it's all finished, and then we've got no alternative. That doesn't work. And you see, this is unfortunately how I see how you're considering it. I see how you want to separate it. I understand that you want to separate it. And what I'm saying to you is that I think it's important that we not separate the relationships here. They are not separate relationships. I'll just remind you so that you understand very clearly. Every single penny which was invested in the technology for ED mission systems came out of Buckwit's pocket here. Every penny. So if you don't want to recognize that, that's your choice. That's why I'm saying. And I also have a partner here who's called Paolo, who owns 20% of the company, who's essentially getting all of this sweat equity and his knowledge and his participation to make the company great. He too wants to know that he has a partner in South America who is contractually bound. Contractually bound. Right now, we're having a hard time doing that with you. And you've just demonstrated that again by saying, sorry, these are two different things. In fact, this is the only way I found to make us have this conversation to make you realize that they are not two different things.